I flew down to my daughter's place without giving her a heads up and found my son-in-law dying alone in the ICU. Meanwhile, my daughter was cruising around town with some men in the car I had bought her. I silently called the police and reported the car stolen. 2 days later, when they released her, she crawled back to me on her knees, only to find out I had signed everything over to her husband. Greetings, dear friends. Before I open the doors to my life and share this difficult story with you, I want to ask for a small favor. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It helps stories like this be heard. And drop a comment letting me know which state or city you're listening from. It would warm my heart to know how far my voice has traveled. Get comfortable. Happy listening. The airport greeted me with a hustle, the smell of roasted coffee, and the weight of other people's expectations. But I didn't feel the joy of reunion that usually embraces fathers flying in to see their children. Inside, somewhere beneath my ribs, a heavy, icy knot of anxiety turned over. It was this very feeling that forced me, a disciplined man used to planning everything weeks in advance, to drop everything, buy a ticket for the next flight, and fly halfway across the country without a word of warning. In the duffel bag slung over my shoulder were 2 jars of homemade honey and herbs, the kind my son-in-law Ethan loved back when he first married my daughter Alina. Next to them was a small wooden cross I had kept from my own father. Foolish perhaps, but in our last conversation, Ethan's voice sounded thin, fractured, like a man already halfway gone. I walked out of the terminal and inhaled the heavy southern air. My phone remained silent. I had been calling Alina for 3 days straight. Long rings, no answer. Ethan had vanished from contact a week ago. They say a father's instincts are quieter than a mother's, but when they speak, they scream. The Uber took me 40 minutes to reach their building, a solid, historic brick structure with high ceilings and a guarded entrance. I had bought this condo for them 3 years ago, right after the wedding. I wanted my daughter to have a life easier than mine. I believed money could protect happiness. I was wrong. The apartment door was slightly open, just a crack, like someone had left in a hurry. Inside, the smell hit me: stale smoke, alcohol, neglect, shoes scattered, furniture out of place. The kitchen looked abandoned, dirty plates, empty bottles, unopened bills stacked like accusations. And then I saw it. A box of medication on the table, heart medication, blood pressure pills, prescribed to Ethan 6 months ago, sealed, dust-covered, untouched. "Who are you looking for?" a raspy voice asked. An elderly neighbor stood at the door. "I'm Alina's father," I said. "Where are they?" She sighed. "Your daughter, out every night, loud music, parties, but the man, the ambulance took him. ICU 2 days ago." The room spun. City General Hospital. The ICU smelled like bleach and despair. Machines beeped with cruel rhythm. The doctor didn't soften his words. Severe pneumonia, extreme dehydration, malnutrition. He lay sick for days without help. If the neighbors hadn't called 911, he'd be dead already. I saw him then. Ethan lay motionless, tubes everywhere, skin stretched tight over bone. This wasn't illness, this was abandonment. I stepped outside to breathe. And that's when I saw the car, the black luxury SUV I had bought Alina a month ago, flying past the hospital with music blasting. Windows down, my daughter behind the wheel, laughing, 2 men beside her. Not a glance toward the ICU. My phone buzzed, a text from Alina. "Dad, I'm at the hospital with Ethan. It's serious. Haven't left his side. Pray for us." Something inside me snapped, not anger, clarity. I remembered registering that car in my own name. "Insurance reasons," I joked. I called 911. "I want to report a stolen vehicle." When the police stopped her, they called me. "Is the driver your daughter?" "My daughter," I said calmly, "is sitting beside her dying husband in the ICU." Silence. "We'll proceed with arrest." "Good." That night I called my attorney. "The condo," I said, "transfer it, not to my daughter." To Ethan. When Alina was released 2 days later, she came to me crying, shaking, furious. That's when she learned. Everything, the home, the security, the future, was no longer hers, because a parent's love is powerful. But accountability is stronger, and death, and that her silence was more eloquent than any words. In between shifts at the bedside, I went back to the apartment. I needed Vada's ID to process the transfer to the private room. The apartment greeted me with the same smell of stagnation and betrayal. I started going through their bedroom with the cold discipline of a man who had learned long ago that panic solves nothing. Drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf. I wasn't searching like a father-in-law. I was searching like an investigator. Under a stack of neatly folded linens, I found an old diary with a worn cover. Not a cute little notebook, not a teenage journal. This thing had weight, a chronicle of survival. I opened it at random. Vada's handwriting, usually round and neat, was small and erratic here, as if she had been writing while her hands shook. March 12th, Sterling asked for money again, said he needed it to maintain his status in front of partners. I gave him the last $400 I saved for the dentist. My tooth hurts unbearably, but he said if he didn't have a new shirt, the deal would fall through and we'd be on the street. My throat tightened. I flipped the page. April 20th, he screamed, said the apartment is actually his, that his mother gave it to him and they just let me stay there. Said if I nag him about a job, he'll kick me out. I'm scared. I have nowhere to go. Mom's gone. Dad is far away. I have to endure it for the family. My vision went dark. He lied to her. He used my kindness like a club and beat this girl into submission with it. He convinced her she was nothing, empty space in his kingdom. He wasn't just taking her money, he was taking her dignity drop by drop. May 5th, he sold my gold ring. Grandma's ring, said he lost it, but I saw the pawn shop receipt in his pocket. With that money, he bought himself a watch. Said, you just sit at home anyway, you don't need jewelry, but I need to look presentable. I closed the diary. My hands trembled, not from fear now, but from a rage so concentrated it felt like it could burn through the paper. This wasn't immaturity, this was financial and psychological terror. He had been methodically breaking her to elevate himself. I took the diary with me, not for court, though it could be that too, but for my conscience. So that when Sterling came back with the eyes of a beaten dog, I wouldn't waver. Back at the hospital, I resumed my post. The rhythmic beep of the heart monitor became the only music. I took Vada's hand in mine. It was dry, hot. You're not alone, baby girl, I whispered. Do you hear me? You're not alone anymore. I'm here and I know everything. He won't hurt you again, I promise. Hours passed. The sky outside the window turned gray. The morning of the third day approached. I dozed off sitting upright, head bowed, exhaustion trying to steal me away in small bites. Then I felt it, a faint movement like a butterfly wing brushing my palm. My eyes snapped open. Vada's fingers resting in my hand twitched. I froze, terrified the moment might vanish if I breathed too hard. Her eyelids fluttered, lifting slowly like a heavy curtain. Her gaze was cloudy, unfocused. She looked through me, through the ceiling, somewhere into the void. Then her eyes cleared enough to land on my face. There was no recognition, only fear, a deep primal fear that lived in her bones. Her lips moved under the mask. I leaned close. Don't let him in, she whispered, voice dry as dead leaves. Don't let him in. Who, honey? I asked softly, though my soul already knew. Who shouldn't I let in? Her grip tightened with a strength that didn't belong to a dying woman. Terror splashed in her eyes. Sterling, she breathed, and a tear rolled down her temple. He turned off the heat, said it was expensive. I'm cold. Don't let him in. The monitor beeped faster. Her pulse spiked. A nurse rushed in with a syringe. SHH, Vada, calm down, the nurse said. I stroked Vada's head, and inside me something rose, cold, murderous resolve. He turned off the heat in winter in a home where his sick wife lay burning with fever, just to save a few dollars he'd spend on gas and cocktails. He was freezing her alive. I walked out of the room while the doctors worked to stabilize her. My face had turned into stone. There was no longer a father-in-law. There was a judge. And the verdict had already been passed, final and without appeal. I stepped out into the morning fog. Every step echoed in my skull, but I felt no fatigue. It was like liquid nitrogen flowed through my veins instead of blood. Vada's words, he turned off the heat, were the final drop that turned my grief into a mechanism. And Uber took me to Odura's law office in 20 minutes. The city was waking up, street sweepers clearing sidewalks, unaware that someone's world was collapsing. Odura was waiting. Her office smelled like expensive coffee and old paper, the smell of law and stability. You look terrible, she said, scanning my rumpled coat and the dark circles under my eyes. But your eyes are burning in a way that scares me. Let's get to business, I said, not removing my coat. Are the papers ready? She slid a folder across the desk. Deed of gift, condo transferred to Vada Jefferson, exactly as you instructed, but before you sign I have to show you something. She pulled out another folder, thin, blue. Yesterday, while pulling the title abstract, I ran into an inquiry. Sterling applied to a payday loan company a week ago, a very shady one. And, I asked, feeling a new spring tighten inside. As collateral, he provided copies of documents for this apartment. Odura lowered her voice. There was a power of attorney, allegedly from you, giving him the right to mortgage the property. She showed me the photocopy, my signature. Almost perfect, almost. The tail of the O was slightly longer than mine. It's a forgery, I said calmly. Crude, but it would pass with thugs. Odura nodded. He was planning to borrow a large sum. If he couldn't pay it back, and he wouldn't have, some very dangerous people would have come knocking. He planned to sell the roof over your heads to cover gambling debts. Thousands. He's a gambler. I closed the folder. The puzzle completed itself. That's why he saved on heating and medicine, not for status, for the game. And when the money ran out, he tried to bet the apartment. My apartment, Vada's life. Where's the pen? I asked. Odura handed me a heavy Parker. I signed the deed, 3 copies, my strokes heavy, final. With each line, I cut off a piece of the past where my beloved son existed. Send it for registration immediately, I said, electronically. I wanted hers within the hour. It will be, Odura replied, stamping it. What about the car? She asked. I'll handle it. I called the dealership. Alex, I said, the SUV is in the police impound. As the owner, I authorize you to pick it up. Tow truck, I'm sending documents by courier. Yes, ma'am, sir, yes, he corrected himself quickly, nervous. Deliver it to trade-in, sell it today. Sell it, it's brand new. You'll take a loss, I don't care, sell it, and the money doesn't go to my account. I'll send the hospital charity fund details. Purpose, treatment and rehabilitation of Vada Jefferson. A pause, I understand, we'll do it. I hung up. Now Sterling had nothing, no wheels, no housing, no father's purse. I scorched the earth around him. My phone pinged again, bank notification, state filing fee paid. The condo was officially going to Vada. Back at the hospital, I met the chief physician and gave them proof of funds. Spare nothing, I said, do everything. As I left the office, my phone rang, a young woman's voice, squeaky, entitled. Is this Sterling's father? Who is this? I asked, ice in every word. This is Candy. I was with Sterling when those pigs arrested us. He told me the SUV was his. Now they're saying it's stolen. Are you people con artists? I chuckled once. Then I spoke softly, almost sweet. Candy, Sterling lied to you. He has no car, no business, and no apartment either. He lives off a sick wife and a father who just stopped funding him. What? She squealed. But he promised Miami. The only trip he's taking is a bus ride to the unemployment office. I hung up. A message from Sterling immediately followed. Mama, Dad, they released me. It was hell, I'm coming home. We need to talk seriously. You owe me an explanation for this circus. He was going home to an apartment that didn't belong to him anymore. He still believed he was the master. 2 hours later, Odra sent me a screenshot. Sterling's social wall had a post from Queen Candy. Yo ladies, don't fall for this loser Sterling Vance. The whip is his daddy's. Bro is broke and his own dad called the cops on him. Embarrassing. Don't call me again, loser. Checkmate. I put the phone away. Son, I whispered to myself, you wanted the high life, you got the fame, now let's see how you handle it. I went to the lobby and sat across from the elevators. In my hands was a Baldwin book I'd grabbed from Vada's place, but the words wouldn't settle. I wasn't reading, I was waiting. 40 minutes later, the elevator doors slid open. Sterling stepped out, wrinkled designer shirt, stains, hair wild, limping, shadows under his eyes. But even in that state, he tried to stand tall. He scanned the hallway not for his wife, for me. He walked straight over, anger dressing itself up like authority. Finally, he barked, Dad, what did you do? They kept me in a tank for 2 days with bums. He leaned over me, expecting me to jump, apologize, fix it. I didn't move. I closed the book slowly, placed it on my knee, and lifted my eyes. Hello, Sterling, I said quietly. You smell. Take a shower before you raise your voice. He blinked like I'd slapped him. You what? He hissed. You reported me. You embarrassed me in front of Candy. I know, I said. She posted the truth. He recoiled. How dare you? You're a loser, Sterling. The word hit him harder than a punch. His face reddened. I'm going to Vada right now. She'll confirm, she'll tell them. You're not going anywhere near her. He turned to rush toward the ICU doors. I didn't stand, I didn't chase, because I'd already handled it. Sterling shoved open the ICU door and took 2 steps, and a private security guard emerged like a wall. Unauthorized entry prohibited, the guard said. Get your hands off me, I'm the husband. Vada's heart monitor jumped at the sound. Leave, the guard warned, or force will be used. Sterling looked back at me, eyes pleading and furious. Dad, tell him. I met his eyes. Take him away, I said. The guard pushed him out. The ICU door slammed shut. Sterling stood in the hallway, humiliated, stripped of toys, stripped of power. He looked at me with pure hatred, and in that moment I understood. The war wasn't ending, it was beginning. His face shifted, anger melting into sorrow like a man changing masks. Dad, he whispered, voice trembling. I'm sorry, I'm a fool. Help me. They're going to kill me. I knew who he meant. The loan sharks, the gamblers, the people he owed, but nothing moved in me, only disgust. Come, I said, standing. We'll talk somewhere you won't disturb the sick. He followed, because he had nowhere else to go. We walked down a long corridor away from the nurses. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I stopped by a window overlooking the parking lot where his blue SUV once stood. There was now an empty space. I turned to him. Well, I said, I'm listening. Sterling looked around to make sure there were no witnesses and then collapsed to his knees. It was so theatrical, so rehearsed, that something in my stomach turned. He grabbed the hem of my coat with dirty fingers and looked up at me like a man begging a judge for mercy. Dad, Pa, forgive me, he wailed, and tears slid down his cheeks. Real or not, I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't mean to. I'll fix everything. I swear I'll never drive drunk again. I'll find a job, just put everything back how it was, give the apartment back. He sobbed, wiping his nose with his sleeve like a child who had learned nothing except how to perform regret. You don't understand, Dad. I have problems, serious problems. I owe money, a lot of money. If I don't pay, they won't just beat me up. They'll kill me. Dad, I'm your son, your blood. Would you let them kill me? He spoke fast, choking on words, trying to crush me with pity, fear, guilt. And those girls in the car, he continued, seeing I was silent, just colleagues. We were coming from a corporate party. I was just giving them a ride. I love Vada. I can't live without her. I sat here, prayed, Dad, believe me. I looked down at him, at his shaking hands, his pathetic posture, and I didn't see a son. I saw a parasite that had been sucking the life out of us for years. Stand up, I said quietly. I won't stand up until you forgive me, he howled louder, hoping some staff member would hear and witness the scene of the prodigal son begging on holy ground. Dad, I'll do anything. I'll take care of Vada. I'll carry her in my arms. Just don't abandon me. Don't take my home. Stand up. My voice snapped like a whip. He flinched and slowly rose, still sniffling, still acting. You say you are my blood, I asked, looking him straight in the eye. Yes, that is true, and it is my greatest shame, a most terrible mistake. I raised you. I gave you everything. But I didn't teach you to be a human being. I opened my bag and took out a folded sheet of paper, an official copy of the deed with the registrar's stamp. Look, I unfolded it inches from his face. See that stamp? The apartment is no longer yours and never will be. It belongs to Vada solely. Sterling stared at the document. His eyes darted across the lines, pupils widening. But how? He mumbled. What if she? He didn't finish. He didn't have to. If she dies, he inherits the apartment, the money, the things. He was already burying her in his mind and counting the profit. Thinking about inheritance, I asked, and my voice dropped so cold it felt like the corridor temperature fell 10 degrees. Don't get your hopes up. I took out a second document, a will, my will. I had rewritten it this morning while waiting for the apartment paperwork. Read, I said, tapping the highlighted paragraph. Sterling read aloud, stumbling. All my property, movable and immovable, as well as funds and accounts, I bequeath to the Hope for Paws Animal Shelter. He looked up at me, horror finally real. You're joking. Dogs, cats, Dad, are you crazy? You're giving everything to animals and leaving your own son on the street. Yes, I answered calmly. Animals are at least grateful when you feed them, and they don't turn off the heat on the sick. You wouldn't dare, he screamed, the repentant mask slipping clean off, his face twisted with malice. I'll contest this. I'll prove you're incompetent, that you're senile. The court will be on my side. I'm the only heir. Try it, I said with a small, humorless smirk. I have a certificate from a psychiatrist, dated today, sound mind and memory. But you, son, you have problems. What problems? He spat, saliva flying. Locks, I said simply. Tonight, the apartment gets new locks and a security system. If you try to enter without Vada's invitation, and I'm sure she won't invite you, police will arrive. And this time they won't let you out in 2 days. Sterling froze. For the first time he understood the scale of it. No home, no car. No money, no inheritance, and the debts, he whispered, and that whisper finally carried real terror. Dad, they'll kill me, they really will. Give me at least money to cover the debt. I'll leave, I'll disappear, you won't see me again. Just give me money. No, I cut him off. You're a grown man, Sterling, you brewed this poison, now you drink it. Go work loader, janitor, courier, work it off. You, his face convulsed. You monster, he leaned forward like a snake and spit venom through his teeth. You're not a father, you're a viper, I hate you. I hope you die with your Vada. I didn't even blink. Feeling is mutual, I said, sliding the documents back into my bag. Now leave, security is coming. At the end of the hall, 2 guards appeared, likely called by someone disturbed by the noise. Sterling looked at them, then at me. Panic flickered. This isn't over, he shouted, backing away. You'll regret this. I'll find a way. The apartment is mine, mine. He spun and ran, nearly knocking a nurse with a tray. I watched him go. I didn't pity him. I pitied the time, the strength, the love I had wasted growing this weed in my own garden, but it was too early to relax. A cornered rat bites the throat. He didn't just run away. He ran to the apartment. I knew it. He would try to get in before the locks changed, grab valuables, electronics, documents, anything he could turn into leverage. I called Odora. Odora, he's on his way. Are the locksmiths there? They're working, she said. Police are here too. I asked an officer to supervise. I've got the deeds in hand. Good, he's furious. Warn them. Don't worry, Odora replied calmly. We'll meet him. I hung up and went back to the nurse's station. I needed to make sure Vada was okay after the shock of his visit, but a new feeling was growing inside me. Liberation. I had cut off a rotten branch. Now the tree could breathe. Sterling, as predicted, didn't go to friends or a bus station. He ran to the only place he still believed was his. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but Odora told me every detail later, and the picture formed in my head as clearly as a film. He burst into the lobby, took the stairs 2 at a time, one thought pounding. Make it in time, make it in time. He reached the 3rd floor and froze. The door was wide open. 2 workers in overalls stood in the hallway, one drilling out the old lock cylinder, the other unpacking a brand new alarm system. Odora stood beside them, arms folded, steady as stone. 2 police officers leaned against the wall, bored, and they were the same officers who had processed his arrest. Fate has a cruel sense of humor. What is going on? Sterling yelled. Get out, this is my apartment. I'm the owner. The worker didn't even turn around. Odora raised her eyes over her glasses. Citizen Vance, she said officially, leave the premises. You no longer reside here. Who are you? He shrieked, trying to squeeze past her. I'm registered here. I live here. My father bought this. Your father bought it, Odora corrected calmly, pulling out a fresh extract. And your father gifted it to Miss Vada Jefferson. Here's the registry. Owner, Vada Jefferson. And here's a certificate. This morning you were deregistered at the owner's request based on loss of right of use. Deregistered, Sterling turned purple. Without me, that's illegal. I'll file a complaint. He tried to dash toward the bedroom. An officer blocked him. Citizen, hold it, the sergeant said lazily but with authority. You were told plain English. This is someone else's property. You are nobody here. Do you know who I am? Sterling snapped. I have connections. I'm calling right now. He dialed frantic. Hello, Donny bro, help me out. Total lawlessness. My dad went crazy. Cops are pressing me. Hello. Hello, hung up, blocked. He dialed another number. Sergio, pull up, urgent. What do you mean you can't? What do you mean you heard? That's lies. He lowered the phone. No one wanted to stand beside a loser with no rich father behind him. His friends were friends of his car and his money. Without them, he was empty space. Leave, Odora said, tired now. Don't make it worse. There's nothing for you here. My stuff, he howled. My clothes, my computer, I have the right to take my stuff. Your things are packed, Odora replied. She signaled a worker. A large gym bag and 2 trash bags were brought out and dropped at Sterling's feet. Clothes, shoes, hygiene products, Odora listed. The laptop stays. It was bought on credit in Vada's name. The TV stays. The console stays. The worker nudged the bags with his boot. Take them and go. Sterling stared at the bundles. His whole life fit into 2 trash bags. You'll regret this, he hissed. All of you, citizen, the officer said, hand resting near his holster. Exit. Sterling grabbed the bag, kicked a sack, and stumbled away cursing. The door slammed shut. The new lock clicked. That sound, sharp, final, was the period at the end of his sentence. Outside, evening wind chased leaves across the pavement. Sterling stood near the entrance where he used to park his luxury SUV, staring at the windows on the 3rd floor where warm light glowed. A light he could no longer reach. He pulled out his wallet. Inside was the supplementary gold card linked to my account, the one he loved flashing in restaurants. Hotel, he thought. Plaza, sleep it off. Dad will cool down. He always cools down. He dragged his trash bags to a nearby ATM at a 24-hour store, inserted the card, entered the PIN, requested balance. The screen flashed, card service suspended by bank, card retained. The machine swallowed the plastic. Sterling stared at the slot like it had eaten his lungs. No, he whispered. No, no, give it back. He hit the screen once, then again. A passerby threatened to call the police. Sterling slid down the store wall onto dirty concrete, surrounded by trash bags, with nothing in his pocket and no power left in his phone. At that same moment, sitting in the hospital, I received a bank alert. Attempted use of blocked supplementary card. Card retained by device. I lowered the phone and looked at Vada. She was sleeping, breathing more evenly now. The machines beeped steady and calm. The worst was over for her. But for Sterling, the real hell was just beginning. A hell he built himself brick by brick, lie by lie, until he had constructed a house with no windows and no doors. 6 months passed. Autumn returned, painting the city gold and crimson, but this cold felt different, clean, invigorating, not death, rest before rebirth. I sat on the balcony of that same apartment. Now it didn't smell of smoke and rot. It smelled of time tea and fresh paint. Vada sat across from me wrapped in a fluffy blanket the color of warm milk, still thin, still careful in her movements, but the hunted emptiness in her eyes was gone. Life lived there now. She was painting. A watercolor landscape bloomed on the easel, our park view from the window. You know, Dad, she said softly, dipping her brush into water, I found a job at the Central Library, Rare Books Department. They need a restorer. The pay isn't huge, but it's enough for me, and the schedule is peaceful. That's wonderful, I smiled, sipping my tea, and don't worry about money. We have a cushion, I know, she said, setting down the brush and looking at me with quiet seriousness. But I want to do it myself. After all this, I need to know I'm not helpless. You're the strongest person I know, I said, covering her hand with mine. We didn't say Sterling's name. It became taboo, as if speaking it would summon an evil spirit back. We replaced wallpaper, changed furniture, repainted walls a warm peach. We scrubbed out even the memory of him. I sold my business back north. The logistics company I gave half my life to went to reliable deputies. I gained freedom. And I bought a small studio next door to be close to Vada but not smother her. We became family. A strange, broken, real family bound not by blood but by scars. I'm going for a walk before sunset, I said, standing. Want me to bring those cinnamon buns you like? Yes, please, Vada smiled. In milk, the air outside was crisp and ringing. I walked past the park, the laughter of children, leaves underfoot, a peace I hadn't known for years. My path led past a car wash on the corner. Usually I didn't look. But today my eyes caught a familiar silhouette. A huge black Jeep stood covered in foam, and a man in a soaked gray jumpsuit scrubbed the fender with frantic precision, afraid to miss a spot. It was Sterling, thin, stooped. Face carved by wind and hard days. His hands, once smooth, were red and cracked from chemicals and cold water. He felt my gaze. He looked up. Time stopped for a second. I expected anger, pleading shame. There was only fatigue, bottomless, dull fatigue. His lips trembled as if he wanted to speak. Dad, help. I didn't give him the chance. I didn't turn away. I didn't speed up. I simply let my gaze pass over him like it would pass over a lamppost or a stranger, and I kept walking. Nothing trembled inside me. No pity, no gloating, just fact. Everyone gets what they build. He wanted luxury without labor. Now he labored dirty to survive. Balance restored. My phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Pa, please, I can't take it anymore. I understand everything. Give me a chance, even just $10 for food. My thumb hovered over reply. What could I say? Endure it. God will provide. No, I opened settings, block contact, delete chat. The screen cleared. The last thread connecting me to the past snapped. Ahead was the bakery. I was expected at home. That is the story, my dear listeners. A story about love that can be blind and about awakening that costs too much. A story about how a father found the strength to cut off his own flesh to save a stranger's life who became family. Now I want to ask you, was I right? Was I cruel to my only son? They tell us a parent should forgive everything. Or is there a line beyond which forgiveness becomes an accessory to a crime? Write in the comments, what city are you listening from? If you like the story, support it with a like, a subscribe, and a comment. It helps stories like this be heard. Thank you so much for your sweet support. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.